Jesus follower, or you can be a guy into fighting and violence. You can't be both, okay? You either believe, turn the other cheek, or you don't. When Jesus comes up and says, turn the other cheek, when he tells people to pray for your oppressors, he's saying this to a group of Jews who are occupied by European military. And
Yeah.
he's telling them to bless their oppressors. You want to talk about a tough room? These
Mm.
people wanted to hear, how are we going to drive these Romans out of our land? And Jesus is saying, love them and forgive them.
Yeah.
Like he's talking about not getting even and not wreaking revenge on evil rat bastards who desperately deserve it. He's talking about breaking the cycle of violence. It's not about you winning over the other guy. It's
Mm.
about you win if you're the side to break the back and forth of the violence. The
Mm.
last words out of his mouth before he dies, after he is executed and murdered by the Romans, is begging God to forgive the people who murdered, tortured, and humiliated him. He was not into retaliation or
Mm.
revenge in any way. Now, the big argument you'll get, and I go deep on this, I'll try to do it really quick, is in Luke 22, where Jesus says, sell your cloak and buy a sword. And that's the quote the gun nuts use. Sell your cloak. Jesus, excuse me, Mr. Liberal. Jesus said, sell your cloak and buy a sword. And an AR 15 is the modern sword, sir. And they love it, right? They love having civilians getting access to machines designed to kill lots of
Mm.
civilians really fast that have no civilian use. But they love it because Jesus said, sell your cloak and buy a sword
Yeah.
in Luke 22.
Yeah.
So when you read Luke 22 and see what the story is really about, it's the night Jesus is being arrested, and
Yeah.
he's talking about how they have to fulfill the prophecy of Isaiah that they were numbered among the transgressors. You know this. So he says, sell your cloak and buy a sword because we have to be criminals
Yeah.
for the prophecy to come true. We got to be armed.
Yeah.
And right
Yeah.
away, the apostle Jesus, we have two swords. Jesus says, oh, that's enough. Okay. And so they carry on, have their night. No one goes out to buy swords late night at the Jerusalem Walmart. When the temple guards show up to arrest him, and his friends want to use their swords. In Matthew, Jesus says, he who lives by the sword will die by the sword. So Jesus doesn't come out against swords. He comes out against using them. And he comes out against self-defense. But from that, they took one line: sell your
Yeah.
cloak and buy a sword. And
Yeah.
the only way you can do that is if you ignore the rest of Luke 22 and
Mm.
if you ignore the rest of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, because Jesus was not a guy who was about armed resistance or violence as
Yeah.
self-defense. So just as they ignore the well-regulated militia part of the Second
Mm.
Amendment, they will ignore all of Luke 22 just to pick one sentence and say, this is why mentally unstable 20 somethings need machine guns.